Welcome back to another video. I will be showing off all the guns offered in Marauders as of currently, what their recoil patterns look like hip firing with no recoil control, hip firing with controlling the recoil, and aiming down sights. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please like and subscribe. Thank you. The Welrod pistol, 32 ACP, hip firing. ADSing. The Luger 9mm, the one found on the Rust Bucket starter kit. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. Again, testing hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Mauser M712, single fire mode, hip firing, no recoil control. Be aware, it has a stock on it. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Switching to automatic. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. M1911 stamp. Hip firing, no recoil control. Retesting. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. M1911 government pistol. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Mosin Obrez pistol. Hip firing, no recoil control. Showing reacquisition of hip fire. ADSing. The Klobb submachine gun pistol. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Here is the Liberator shotgun. This is hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control by slowing down the rate of fire. And here's ADSing. Showing the Terminator shotgun. It is only a one shot, so there is no way to control recoil or anything. Sawed-off shotgun, pistol, hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing, slowing down attack to acquisition the same target. ADSing. The Trenchgun, 12 gauge shotgun, hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with slowing down the rate of fire to control the recoil. ADSing. Jackhammer, 12 gauge shotgun, hip firing with no recoil control. Hip firing by slowing down the rate of fire to control. ADSing. Viper Mk2. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. The Viper Mk2 does not have iron sights, so when let's see how the ADS does with hip firing. The M45K. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. And ADSing. Uzi, no modifications. Hip firing, no recoil control. Uzi, hip firing with recoil control. Uzi ADSing. The Sten Mk2. Hip firing, no recoil control. No mods. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing with recoil control. MAP 49 recoil test with a stock. This is going to be shooting it with no hip firing, with no recoil controlling. This is going to be hip firing with recoil control. ADSing with recoil control. MP40. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. PPSH. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. M50 Reising. Automatic, no mods, no recoil control. Hip firing. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Thompson. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Mk2. Hip firing, no recoil control, single fire. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing, single fire mode. Mk2, no attachments, full auto, no recoil control, hip firing. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Here is the Lisle Carbine. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. M1A1 Para. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. We're going to be testing the Johnson out now, the M1941 Johnson. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. ADSing. SVT 40. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Here is the Krasa Rifle 762. Hip firing with no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. K1 Assault, no modifications, hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. M16 on single fire, hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control, single fire. ADSing, single fire. M16 now with burst fire, hip firing, no recoil control. Now, hip firing with recoil control on burst. ADSing while on burst fire. Here is the STG-44. It is a 7.62 caliber. Here is hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing, recoil control. The Bren Mk2. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. DP28. This is the DPA's 28 hip fire with no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Here is the bar. Hip firing, no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing. Heavy MG42, same as the regular MG42 without the shield. Same stats, same recoil patterns. This is going to be testing it hip firing with no recoil control. Hip firing with recoil control. ADSing with recoil control.